Hi there! In today's video, I'm going to create a Python library that allows you to answer questions about a PDF file using the ChatGPT API without using the OpenAI embedding. Now, I have actually already coded this twice, first time off camera and then the second time on camera, but forgetting to plug in my microphone. So now I'm going to code it live for the third time. So if you appreciate that, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and consider joining as a member on my Buy Me a Coffee page, just like David and someone. Thank you very much, David and someone. Now, in my previous video about the Python AI agent, you asked me to do something like this. So first of all, you asked me to make it read some existing files and then answer questions based on those or modify existing files. And you actually asked to do exactly this. So take a PDF file and then change it into a text format and then extract some data from them. So that is what we are doing in today's video. And maybe in the next video, I will integrate it into this Python AI agent so that you can keep asking it questions and it can read the answer from the PDF file. But now let's get coding. So let's start with the parsing of the PDF. So I have a PDF file here, which is the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Now, this is not the whole book, but it's 37 pages. So this will not fit into the context window of ChatGPT. So you can't just copy the text and paste it in there and ask it any questions. So we are going to try to ask questions about the information in this book, and it should tell us the answer. So let's first create a file here, and let's call it pdfreader.py. And we can use a library called pypdf2. So we will import that one. Now, if you don't have this, you have to run pip install pypdf2. But I already have it, so nothing happens. Then we are going to create a function that will convert the PDF into a text format. So we are going to call this chunk PDF because what we have to do in order to be able to answer questions from a large PDF file with ChatGPT is we have to split it into chunks that fit into the ChatGPT context window. So let's do that first. So we will take the PDF file and we will take a limit of how big the chunk is. And I will use 4,000 characters right now, although you can fit a lot more in the context window, especially now with the larger models. But let's just start with this just to test it out. Now, we also want to make these chunks overlap a little bit, because what happens if the information we need is in the middle of two different chunks? Then how can we get the answer then? We can't. So we have to overlap all these chunks a little bit so that the information will more probably be contained in one single chunk. So let's set an overlap here as well, which will be 1,000. And we can tune these afterwards to find the perfect ones. And so how we read a PDF file is we do with open PDF file, and we have to open it in the RB format, which I guess is read binary or something like that. And we do as if. And then we have to say that the PDF will be pypdf2 PDF reader. And we pass in the F, which is the file. And then from this we can get all the pages of the PDF. So we can say for page in pdf.pages. So we will loop through all of the pages. And then we can get the text from the page with page.extract text. Now we want to chunk this PDF, like I said. Now we could just read the whole thing into a variable and then chunk it. But perhaps that will use more memory because we have to load the whole thing into memory and then take the chunks, and then we're going to have the chunks and the whole thing in memory. Now, I don't know if I really care about that, but let's try to do this without using excess memory. So let's do this. Let's define a chunks list, and let's set the first chunk to be just an empty string. And then let's here do chunk plus equals the extracted text. And then, of course, this extracted text will be longer than the chunk, so we have to only take the chunk part of it, the limit size. So let's do this. Let's say while the length of the chunk is greater than the limit, we will append to the chunks a portion of this text. So we will say chunks append chunk from the beginning until the limit. So we will add that part into the chunks. And then we want to remove that part from this current chunk. So we will say chunk equals chunk from the limit to the end. So then we will go back to this while loop, and if the chunk is still too long, then we will add a part of it to the chunks, and then we will take the rest of the chunk and we will repeat this until the whole page has been extracted. And then we will do this for the whole PDF, all the page. And then in the end, we might have an extra chunk left. So let's do the same thing here again. Well, this will just be if we have something in the chunk. Then we will add it there, and in fact, we will add the whole chunk in there. And then in the end, we can just return the chunks. But now, since we have this overlap, we should minus the overlap from this when we get the next chunk to be parsed. So we will add from the text from 0 to 4,000 characters as a chunk. And then we will take from 4,000 characters minus 1,000 characters until the end, the next chunk. So then there will be some overlap between them. So let's see if this actually works. So I will call it here. So I'll say print chunk PDF, and we will pass in our 4hours.pdf. And we don't have to set the limit because these are default values. And let's see what happens. So if I now run this, then we get a bunch of text. And if we take a look at this, it's pretty hard to see what's going on here. So I will in fact test this with just 100 characters, and I will import JSON and I will print this with JSON nicely. So let's see if we now run it. Then I crashed my computer because I forgot to change the overlap. So now we are in an infinite loop. So hopefully I can stop this somehow. Okay, I was able to rescue my computer. So let's set the overlap to 1 for now. And let's run this. And here we have some data. And now you can see that we actually have chunks here. So here it is off the line behind an ever-growing list of and so on. And it ends with O, and then this one starts with O. So we already have the 1 character overlap here. So now it works. So let me go back to 1,000 and 4,000. And what are we going to do next? I will leave this file as it is, and I will create another module. So this module will be called lookup.py. Now, how you normally do this thing is with the embeddings. And what the embeddings do is they take a piece of text and they convert it into a vector format, which is just a bunch of numbers, basically. That's as much as I know about vectors. And then when you have these vectors, you can then compare them to other vectors. So you would chunk the PDF file or the text into parts, and you would embed each one of those parts. And then you would also embed the prompt, the question you want to ask about the PDF. And then you would compare that prompt vector to all of the parts vectors and see which one is the most similar, and then take that and pass it into ChatGPT. Now, I haven't done that yet, and I will not do it in this video because I have another idea that actually works. So since the embeddings work just by comparing the prompt to the embedding, then couldn't we just compare strings? Couldn't we just search for the keywords in our prompt in the documents and then take the most relevant document based on that and pass that to ChatGPT? And yes, we can. So let's do that. Here is how we are going to do it. We are going to create a find matches function. And we are going to take the chunks and we are going to take the keywords we want to search for. And then what we are going to do is we are going to calculate the points for each of these chunks based on the keywords we have provided. So which of the chunks includes most of these keywords? Now, if we did only that, then it still would work pretty well. But there's the problem that if you have a keyword that occurs in all of the documents or many of the documents or the chunks, then that will skew the results because then all of those chunks will get points from that keyword. So there is an algorithm called TF-IDF, which means term frequency inverse document frequency. And if we go to Wikipedia and we look at this, then we have all kinds of math here, which I don't understand anything about. But we can develop a very simple version of this. So basically what it means is that the term frequency is the number of times a keyword occurs in a single document, or a single chunk in this case. And the inverse document frequency is how many times that keyword occurs in all of the document. So we should give more value to the keywords that only appear in that single document, or fewer documents or chunks. And then the other keywords that are included in all of the documents, then we shouldn't care about those at all, or very little. So like words like and, it's going to be in every single document, so we don't have to care about that. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to first calculate the document frequency for each of these keywords in our chunks. So let's make a dictionary called df, and then let's loop through all of the chunks. So for chunk in chunks, and we want to actually get the index of the chunk so that we can return that from this function. So let's take the chunk ID and we will do enumerate chunks, so we get the index of the chunk. And then for every chunk we should loop through every keyword. So for keyword in keywords, we are going to count the occurrences of this keyword in this chunk. And in fact, we are not going to do this enumeration yet, because we don't care at this point which chunk the keyword is in. We only want to calculate the occurrences in the whole thing. So we will say that the occurrences is going to be chunk find keyword. No, it's not find, it's count. So we count the occurrences of the keyword in the chunk. And then let's add that into the document frequency for that keyword. So let's do if keyword not in df, then we will set df keyword to 0. And then we will say df keyword is plus equals the occurrences. Now you can probably do this somehow in Python without doing this if. Let me know in the comments how you actually do this, because I hate doing these if things, because I just want to do this. Just like the good old PHP days. You can't do this in PHP anymore either. But anyway, we are going to add the occurrences to the document frequency of that keyword. So now we should have the document frequency of each keyword saved. So then what we're going to do is we are going to again loop through all the chunks and the keywords, and then calculate the points for each keyword in each chunk, or just the points for each chunk. So let's create a results dictionary, and let's do this for chunk ID chunk in chunks. And now we are going to enumerate over these. So we get the index, and then we are going to do again for keyword in keywords. By the way, you can probably do this in like a single loop or something, but I'm not intelligent enough to do that. And then we are again going to calculate the occurrences. So occurrences equals chunk count keyword. And we are going to set points to 0 for every chunk. And then we are going to say points plus equals occurrences. But then we are going to divide this by the document frequency of that keyword. So we are going to say df keyword. Now we might get a division by 0 error here, so I'll just put if this is greater than 0. Then we add the points. And then after we have looped through all of the keywords, then we are going to save these in the results. So we'll say results chunk ID equals points. And then in the end, we should have a dictionary of the results with the chunk IDs and their points. Now we would want to order this so that the best points are at the top. So let's do that. So we have to return sorted results, and we have to say key equals, so that we will keep the existing keys, because we want to keep the chunk IDs in there. Because if we don't set this, we only get the points and not the chunk IDs. So we will say key equals, and we will do a lambda function. And I don't really remember how this works because I did this with ChatGPT last time. So I have to pass in here like the item, and then we will say that item, and then we will get the number 1 from here. Something like this. It's not like this, but let's actually use ChatGPT to do this because I have no idea how to do this. How do I sort in reverse order a dictionary in Python while keeping the keys? Okay, so I always forget this. So we have to sort the dict items, and then we do the lambda like this. Okay, so let's do that. So we sort the results items, and then here we get the item, and then we get the 0th index of the item, which will be the key of that item. And that will be set to the sorted items. And we can say reverse is true. And then I believe we had to convert this into a dict. Did it do it here? It did not. Okay, there will be tuples then. But I want it to be a dictionary, so I have to add the dict here. So maybe that will work. Now, there's one more thing we have to do, which is that we have to remove from the chunks a little bit from the beginning and from the end. And that is because what if the keyword we're looking for is right in the end of the chunk or in the beginning of the chunk? Then we might not actually have the information needed to answer the question in that chunk. So we only want to search from in the middle of the chunk, and then we'll pass the whole thing to ChatGPT, because otherwise it's not going to work. So let's do this. Let's say trimmed chunks is an empty list. Now I'm setting a new variable here because if I use this one, then I think Python will change the original one. But I don't want to change the original one. I want to make a copy. So then let's again do for I chunk in chunks, and we will enumerate. And then we will say that the chunk equals chunk padding to minus padding. So let's set the padding here. I don't know if this padding, or what is the reverse of padding? Padding is 500. So we will take 500 characters from the beginning and 500 characters from the end. But we don't want to take 500 characters from the beginning of the first chunk or 500 characters from the end of the last chunk, because that's the only information there is. So we are not going to have another chunk after that that includes it. So we have to say if I is not equal to 0, then the chunk will be chunk padding to the end. And then if I is not the length of the chunks, then we will do chunk equals chunk from the beginning to minus padding. So now we don't take it from the first one from the beginning or the last one from the end. And then of course we have to do trimmed chunks append chunk. So now we are going to have in the trimmed chunks everything we want. So we are not going to use chunks anymore. We are going to use trimmed chunks. Now I have many for loops here now. We could probably do with some less for loops. And if you know how to do that, then feel free to make a pull request on my GitHub repository. So now I think this function should be ready. We might want to trim some special characters from the chunks first, but perhaps it is not necessary. Oh, we will have to convert the chunks into lowercase and the keywords, but we can do the keywords to lowercase in a different place. So let's do chunk.lower. So now we will have the lowercase chunks in the trimmed chunk. So let's now test this and see if it works. So let's make a test.py. And here let's import our PDF reader and import our lookup. And let's do this. Chunks equals PDF reader dot chunk PDF. And we will pass in the 4hours.pdf. And then we are going to say matches is lookup dot find matches from the chunks. And let's add some keywords in it. Now let's set the keywords here. Let's actually say first question equals something. And let's get a question that we can find the answer to in this document. So, okay, here we have a quote by Henry David Thoreau. So let's see what quote by Henry David Thoreau was in the book. And for now, let's just do keywords equals question dot split space. Now later we will do this with ChatGPT, so that actually we will pass the question to ChatGPT and then let it create the keywords for us. But for now we will just do this. And then let's do print matches. And let's see what kind of data we have in the matches. So let's run Python 3 test.py. And here we have something. We have number 16 as the best one with 0.0777 points. So let's see what is in chunk number 16. Let's do print chunks 16 and do this, and let's see what we have here. Now, I just realized that this is actually not sorted in the correct way. So our sorting did not work because this is 0.07 and number 11 is 2.5 and 0 is 1. So our sorting does not work. I was wondering why the number was so low. So that was not the right chunk. So results, items, key, lambda item, item 0, reverse true. Let me remove this reverse, and now it works. No, it is sorting them by the key. I want to sort by the value. So perhaps I have to put 1 here instead. Okay, now it's correct, but now they are in reverse order. So number 11 is 2.5. So let's do the reverse again. I remembered that I had to put 1 here. Reverse is true. And let's run this one more time. Okay, and now number 11 is the first one. So let's see what is in number 11 chunk. Here we have something, and in fact we have our quote here. I also have in mind that seemingly wealthy but most terribly impoverished class of all, and so on, by Henry David Thoreau. So now we can actually find the most relevant chunk from this book. So let's pass it to ChatGPT. So let's create a new file. Let's call this gpt.py. And in here, let's import OpenAI, and let's set our API key. OpenAI.API key equals os.getEnd OpenAI API key. And let's import OS. And let me see that I have it here. I do not, so I have to export OpenAI API key. And I will paste it here and I will save it, and you will not see it. All right, I have saved the API key in my environment. So now let's define this function. So let's do answer question, and we will give it the chunk and we will give it the question. And let's make a prompt. Prompt equals. Let's do an F string with multiple lines, and let's put some ticks over here. And then let's say chunk. So we'll just paste in the chunk here. And then we will say, based on the above information, what is the answer to this question? And then let's do question. And then let's send this to ChatGPT. So let's do response equals OpenAI chat completion create. And we will use the model GPT 3.5 Turbo. We don't have to have 16K or anything. I mean, I guess we might want to use 16K so we can use a bigger chunk. But for now, I will use just the Turbo, little one. And we will set the messages to be a list with role, user, and content prompt. So this prompt will be the user prompt. And then let's just return response, choices, 0, message, and content. And that really should be it. So if we go to our test, and now we say here that the response is gpt.answer question. What did I call it? Answer question. And let's import GPT. Now we have to get the first chunk. So how do we get that? It will be matches let's do this. Chunk ID is going to be matches, which is a dictionary, so we have to get the keys, and we have to get the first key, and then the actual chunk will be chunk's index chunk ID. And we can remove this one and that one, and we can just print the response. So let's see if ChatGPT will now answer our question. What quote by Henry David Thoreau was in the book? Let's run python 3 test.py. And we are sending a message, and we get an error. Dict keys is not subscriptable. Why is this so difficult? I will just make a loop for chunk ID in matches keys. And then we will say that the chunk is that. And we will just break from here at this point. So now we get the chunk ID. So let's run this again. And look at this. The quote by Henry David Thoreau in the book is, "I also have in mind that seemingly wealthy but most terribly impoverished class of all, who have accumulated dross," I don't even know what that word means, "but know not how to use it or get rid of it, and thus have forged their own golden or silver fetters." Now, if we take a look, I believe that this is in fact the quote that we have here from Henry David Thoreau. So now it works. Now we can search for anything. So we could in fact do this. We could say question is input GPT. What do you want to know? And a new line and you. And if we now run this again, it will ask us what do we want to know. So let's ask when did the author become a millionaire? And it will start looking, and it will say the answer is not provided in the given information. Now, how we fix this is the following. Let's add here another function, get keyword, and we will pass in our question here. And the prompt again will be, I want to find the answer to the following question from a PDF file. Please provide me with 10 keywords that I can use to find the information from the PDF. And then we will add the question here. And then we are going to, again, do this stuff. But now we are going to use the function calling because we want to actually get a list of keywords in a specific format. So we are going to say that functions is a list of some functions, and we are going to pass in a name which will be list keywords, and a description will be use this function to give the user a list of keywords. And the parameters of this will be a type of an object, and the properties of this object will be list. And the type of the list will be an array. And the items in the array will have the type of string. And the description of these items will be a keyword. And the description of this list will be a list of keywords. Now, you probably don't have to set these because ChatGPT will understand what it has to do, but I'll do it anyway. And then we will set here that the function call is going to always be list keywords, and the arguments will have to be list, and we will also set them here. Required is list. So now ChatGPT will always give us a list of keywords, and then we can import JSON, and we can do this. JSON loads, and we will, instead of the content, we will take the function call, and from the function call we will take the arguments, and we will JSON parse those arguments, and we are going to take the list from those arguments. So now if we go to our test, And we, instead of splitting the question, we will say that the keywords will be gpt.getKeywords. What did I call it? Yes, get keywords. And I will pass in our question. And let's do here print searching. And let's do keywords join. How does join work? Space join keyword. Actually, comma and space join keywords. And let's see what kind of keywords ChatGPT will give us. So let's try the Henry David thing first. So what quote by Henry David Thoreau was in the book? And we are going to get the keywords of an error. List keywords. List of keywords is not type of object. What did I do? This is supposed to be inside the list property. So let's try this again. What quote by Henry David Thoreau was in the book? Searching quote, Henry David Thoreau, book, Henry David Thoreau quote, book quote, famous quote, literature. Okay, not a very good list of keywords. So let's change our prompt. Only one word per keyword. Use only lowercase. Oh, that's actually the problem, because I forgot to turn them into lowercase. Use only lowercase letters, and I will in fact make them lowercase. So let's say that the keywords are those. In fact, we can do this. Since this argument is a JSON string, we can say argument. We can return this, return, and we can say that the argument is that lower. So we'll just turn the JSON string into lowercase, and then we take the list. Now we might still want to do something like this. We might say keywords is that, and then we can do space join keywords split space. So if it uses keywords that have a space in them, then we will separate those as different keywords. So let's try this one more time. What quote by Henry David Thoreau was in the book? And look at this. Now we got the actual answer. And we were searching for quote Henry David Thoreau book. And here we have the quote by Henry David Thoreau was this. And it is the correct one. So let's now see if we can do that other question that I asked. When did the author become a millionaire? Searching millionaire author become when did. The information does not mention when the author became millionaire. So let's do this. Let's print the matches again, and let's just exit here. And we have number 9 as the best one, and number 1 as the second best one, and number 5 as the third. So let's see if we actually loop through all of these. Does one of them have the response? So let's ask it again, and we should get searching for millionaire. And sorry, I put my print response in the wrong place, so I have to move it here. And let's try this again. So when did the author become a millionaire? Okay, we actually got the answer now. So the first answer was the author became a millionaire in 1997. So the keywords were probably better this time than the last time. Last time they were millionaire author when. So it depends what keywords it uses. But what we can do next is we can in fact make a loop, and we can change this answer question so that it will tell, is there an answer to this question in this chunk? And if it is not, then we move to the next most likely chunk. So let's do that. We can again use the function calling here. So let's create functions here. Functions. And the name of this function will be give response. And the description will be use this function to give the response and whether or not the answer to the question was found in the text. And what we will have here is the parameters, which will be typed object, And the properties will be answer found. And this will be of type Boolean. And the description is set this to true only if the provided text includes an answer to the question. And then we will set another one, which will be the response, which will be of type string. And the description will be the full response to the question if the information was relevant. And then we are going to set the required to be the answer found. So we at least want to know if the answer was found. And then again, we can do the same thing as up here. So we can get the arguments, and we don't have to put these into lowercase. And then we can return arguments, actually just the arguments. We will just return the arguments. Now note that here we are not actually calling any functions. We are just using the function calling API to get a specific type of answer. So we don't have a give response function like we did in the AI agent. We create a write file function, which actually writes the file, but this doesn't do anything. We just get the answer. And then when we call the response, then this will have the dictionary, which actually I have to do JSON dumps, no JSON loads. So we will actually turn it into a dictionary. So the response will be a dictionary with the answer found and the response. So then we can do this. Response is that if response get answer found, then we will print the response. And in fact, the response get response. And let's say GPT says that, let's make it a string, just to be sure. And we can break. Otherwise, we will move to the next chunk. So we will keep searching until we find the answer. So let's remove these from here. And let's try this out. So now if we run this and we have an error, line 74, I forgot a comma. So let's say, when did the author become a millionaire? And then we should search, and we search for author millionaire become. Okay, now I struggled with this a lot. Sometimes it still answers and it doesn't set the answer found parameter. So one thing we could do is we could set a system message, role system, and content will be always set answer found to false if the answer to the question was not found in the information provided. And let's try to run this again. And let's search again for when did the author become a millionaire. And now we got the answer. Now, I feel like it found it on the first try for some reason. Now, it did use different keywords here. It added when here. So let's try this one more time. When did the author become a millionaire? Author, millionaire, when? Again, we search for the same thing. Okay, so now it works. Let's try something else. In the end of the book, there is a quote, or like there are reviews, and there's a person named Anthony who made a review. So if we scroll all the way down here, there is this review here by Anthony. So let's see if it can answer this. What did Anthony say about Tim's book? Anthony say Tim's book. And it seems like we are not finding it because it is taking very long. So I want to check something. Let's go to our lookup and let's print our df. Okay. Let's not print our df because I know what the problem is. I have to say -1. So this is the problem. This is why I tested this particular thing and why we have to add this. So this is in the end of the book. So if we take 500 characters from the end, then we never get this information. And because this was made wrong, because this needs to be -1, otherwise it will never, the I will never be the length of the chunks. It will be always, because it starts from 0. So now we can get the answer. So let's ask it again. What did Anthony say about the book? Or Tim's book? Tim's book. Anthony say Tim's book. Anthony said that Tim's book and blog have inspired him to quit his job, write 2 ebooks, skydive, backpack through South America, and so on. So we actually found it. Now, I don't want to run this script every time, so let me make it like conversational, like a loop. So let's do this. Let's chunk the PDF first. Let's print here, chunking PDF. And let's add another new line here. And then let's do while true, we will ask a question and get the keywords and get the matches. And when we find the answer, then we'll go back to the question. Now we have to add here in the end also that if we didn't get the answer, then we will print GPT, I'm sorry, but I can't find that information. And let's add an extra new line here and an extra new line here too. And let's add it here too. And here. So now if we run this, then it will ask us, what do you want to know? And then I can say, where did the author go on a 1-week vacation? And I know this is in the book, so it should find it. The author went on a 1-week vacation to Florence, Italy. And if we search for Florence, then here we have in 2002, he went on a 1-week vacation to Florence. Now there's also a list of companies that were born during a recession. So we can say, what companies were said to be born during a recession in the book? Now I think the ChatGPT API is being slow right now because we are not getting the keywords. Or did I do something wrong? The ChatGPT API is very bad in this, that sometimes it gets stuck. So let's try to run this again and ask the question again. What companies were said to be born during a recession in the book? Okay, searching companies born recession book. And the companies mentioned to be born during a recession in the book are Facebook, LinkedIn, Monopoly, Apple, Cliff Bar, Scrabble, KFC, Domino's Pizza, FedEx, and Microsoft. And let's ask again, when did the author become a millionaire? Okay, we are searching now, and the author became a millionaire in 1997. And what nickname did Tim's mom use when he was a kid? Now this is a very difficult one because the book does not mention nickname or mom, it says mother, but it does have the answer to this question. So let's see if it can find this. I think it cannot. Okay, and we actually got a response. And again, we should never get this response. We should always get the I'm sorry, I can't find the answer. But ChatGPT just doesn't give the answer found properly. But what we can do here is we can go to the GPT and we can say, please provide me with 10 keywords and synonyms that I can use to find the information. So now hopefully when I say mom, it will say mother as well. So then it will find it. So what nickname did Tim's mom use when he was a kid? And yes, we have mother, name, call, child, Tim, mom, use, kid, nickname. Okay, we got some weird answer. We got an error. So we got some sort of incorrect arguments here. So again, the ChatGPT API is not that great with these function calls, especially the 3.5. It screws up the JSON sometimes. So we should add some error handling here. But let me try one more time. What nickname did Tim's mom use when he was a kid? Okay, we got bad keywords again, so it's not gonna find it. Now I wonder if we use the embeddings, if it would be better. Even in this case, when we use different words that are in the book. But I really want to make this work. Why doesn't it work? Okay, now we got Tim, mom, kid, child, mother, name, childhood, moniker, pet, name. What? Okay, that's a too difficult one. So I'll have to try to make that work. But we can, for example, say, why did Tim almost fail kindergarten? Tim almost failed kindergarten. Reason, struggle, difficulty, challenges. Tim almost failed kindergarten because he refused to learn the alphabet. And this is actually in the book. So we are getting actual answers from the book. So I will make some small improvements to this, and I will post this on my GitHub, and you can find the link in the description if you want to use it. And please let me know in the comments if this works for your use. I haven't tried it that much. I've only tried it with this pretty short book. But anyway, this is going to be the end of today's video. Maybe in the next one, I will integrate this into the AI agent that I have created so that it will have a function to read PDF files. And we might want to add a functionality to actually read just regular text files, because now you have to read a PDF file, but what if you have it already in the text format? But that should be pretty easy to implement. So if you want to see me do that, then make sure to subscribe to my channel and click like on this video, and I will see you in the next one.